That's why he was calling for African unity. Defining the new African. This is what Nkrumah said. Africa needs a new type of citizen, a dedicated, modest, honest, informed man or woman, emphasis man. A man or woman who submerges self in service to the nation and mankind. A man or woman who abhors greed and detests vanity. A new type of man or woman whose humility is his strength and whose integrity is his greatness. From this book, The Axioms of Kwame Nkrumah, if Africans care to read, from this small book, we can unify that African continent in less than no time. The exploitation of our resources will no longer be there. The reason why we have rebel fighters in the Congo is because of the mineral wealth of that land. And there are many interests, groups, including some African countries, that are interested in exploiting the mineral wealth of the Congo. To keep it destabilized is the only way to find or get access to that mineral wealth without paying for it. And that is a disgrace. Africa must unite, Nkrumah said. If we do not formulate plans for unity and take active steps to form political union, we will soon be fighting and warring among ourselves, with imperialists and colonialists standing behind the screen and pulling vicious wires to make us cut each other's throats for the sake of their diabolical purposes in Africa. It is already happening. I just gave an example of the dismembering of Mali. I also gave an example about the situation in Darfur, the situation in the Congo, whereby rebel forces have just captured the capital of one of the provinces called Goma. And these rebel forces have backing from neighboring countries of Rwanda and Uganda. If Africa were united, why would Uganda and Rwanda be interested in the wealth of the Congo when it belonged to all of them? But because of the fact that we're not unified, because of the fact that the territorial boundaries that were created by the Europeans is still there, and because we have these fiefdoms that we have different heads of states, different presidents from these fiefdoms, that's how we as Africans can destabilize other African nations so that we have access to their mineral wealth. And it is a shame. Africa must unite, Nkrumah continued. This is a political map of Africa. Look at it. Why can't we be one nation? From north to south and from east to west. Why can't we have a railway line from Dakar to Dar es Salaam and from Cairo to Cape Town? Why can't we do that? Because of the fact that we are not unified. We don't have the will to do things very constructively for the interest of the African people. That is our problem. Nkrumah is advising us to unify, and he left us a blueprint. All these quotations that I'm reading to you. And you can go and find more information for yourself, because Nkrumah left us a blueprint. He cannot come back from the dead to save us anymore. He left us this blueprint so that we can save Africa by unifying the land. When Nkrumah made those remarks, many African countries were still under colonial rule. Today, there's not a single territory on a foreign rule. But does it look that way? Let's take the Congo as an example. Why would Rwanda and Uganda have interest in keeping turmoil there? How about Sudan and South Sudan? What happened to Somalia? How come the historical sites in Mali are being obliterated? All these are happening because we are not one. It's happening because we have not unified the people. The people of Africa are yearning for unity, but our leaders are not ready for unity. This is part of the blueprint, a union government for Africa. The forces that unite us are intrinsic and greater than the superimposed influences that keep us apart. These are the forces that we must enlist and cement for the sake of the trusting millions who look to us, their leaders, to take them out of the poverty, ignorance, and disorder left by colonialism into an ordered unity in which freedom and amity can flourish amidst plenty. One single person, and I use this word, almost single-handedly liberated Africa or emancipated an entire enslaved race. He's gone now, but he left a blueprint for us. And that blueprint, if read carefully and followed carefully and implemented carefully, can save us from all the problems we are encountering. If Africa was united, is the question. If Africa was united, no major power bloc would attempt to subdue it by limited war, because from the very nature of limited war, what can be achieved by it is itself limited. It is only where small states exist that it is possible, by landing a few thousand Marines or by financing a mercenary force to secure a decisive result. This is what is happening. The rebel force that went into the Congo is a large country, but the Congo is the most destabilized country in Africa because of its mineral wealth. So even though it's large in size, it doesn't have the capacity to prevent a foreign force from invading it because of its mineral wealth. If Africa were united, Congo's resources will be distributed equitably across the land, and the development of the Congo will advance. Nkrumah talked about the riches of Africa, and yet the poorest of Africa. Only a united Africa can redeem its past and glory and renew and reinforce its strength for the realization of its destiny. We are today the richest yet the poorest of continents, but in unity our continent could smile in a new era of prosperity and power. What else do you want this man to say? Africans, what else do you want this man to say? Africans, Ancestor Wolf Tego, a mentor of mine, could not have said it better. No people could be as blessed as Africans for what Nkrumah left behind. This blueprint I'm talking about. What is the blueprint? Conflict resolutions, solutions to our ethnic group conflicts. What is in the blueprint? Economic independence. How to manage our natural and human resources. What is in the blueprint? How to come together in unity as one people with one voice. We can do it. The will is there. The people of Africa are prepared for unity. What we need now is to drag our leaders kicking and screaming. Africans, are you listening? Let me just leave you with this. By my mentor, the great Francis Wulf-Tego, in answering the question, why Africa, why Nkrumah never dies. This is what he said. What Ghanaian and African youth would no doubt wish someone could explain to them is how, starting out with so little, Kwame Nkrumah was able to achieve so much, not simply for himself and his family, but for an entire enslaved race, despite the distractions and the unending intrigues and dangers posed by his detractors. Kwame Nkrumah gave of himself as freely as one would pour water from a cup. And that is why he can never die in the hearts and minds of conscious Africans everywhere. Need I say more? African traditionalism is different. Different is not deficient. Different is not devilish. Different is not ungodly. Different is not uncivilized. This is what Africans have been doing, or this is the process Africans have been using to connect to their Creator. For those of you watching the show for the first time, welcome to Divine Speech in African Traditionalism. We have just embarked on a journey. May Amon-Re continue to bless you. Take care.